Okay, so 10 minutes to talk about using predictions. It's been a year and a half since I've been looking at this, so I'm going to try and really make it brief and as fast as possible. Essentially, a little bit about us. We're a casino gaming company. We touch about 900,000 people every day. We've been on rampant growth, and we've been scaling all of our infrastructure, systems, personnel, et cetera, et cetera. 2 years ago, we were about 25 to 30 people. Today, we're over 180. So, really fast growth, fast paced, and sort of how do you keep up with that? We've got on our current support organization 3 different tiers. We've got our VIP managers who talk on a one-on-one basis with different individuals. Then we've got our concierge managers, which is a program that's a little bit more automated, let's say, and with less interaction. And then we've got our customer support reps who are really trying to answer as many tickets as they can. But this is the reality of our life. Our tickets, and these are in the thousands of tickets, right? I didn't want to include because some of this data is just confidential. But we've seen, or we're expecting to see from last year to mid this year, about a 300% increase in tickets being submitted to our customer support reps. So we're really experiencing a growth which, we all know how important it is to be able to reply to those customers, to help them out with the issues that they're having and the impact that that has on the re-engagement factors that we see. Yet, this is the reality of our life. And on top of it, we don't want to scale horizontally our customer support teams, right? Because just the headcount allocation is too expensive. So what we did last year was we started defining very specific SLAs with regards to the different tiers that we had. And we said, we're going to make sure that we answer within a specific time frame our most valuable customers. And so we break them down according to the different tiers that they are within the loyalty program. And those are the people that we're going to be focusing on. Those are the people that we're going to be holding ourselves accountable with regards to SLAs. And anything underneath that we'll hopefully get to, but we can't necessarily guarantee that we will even respond, right? And we're one of the few companies in our space that's actually responding to this amount of tickets. There's a lot of people that just don't reply, or all they do is send out automated responses, right? And so our core focus has been here. And if you look at what our customer support reps can actually do, they're essentially maybe hitting right down here, right? And the rest of it is just never answered or never addressed. But what's the reality of what's sitting inside this purple, right? It's a whole mash of different people where we have Proto Whales. We define Proto Whales as people that are not whales yet, have not spent with us enough money to even be considered, or at times haven't even spent any money with us, but are showing the signs of potentially becoming whales, which are the driver of our business. We've got first-time depositors. That's the lifeblood of the system. Those are the people that are trying to deposit for the first time. And what we usually see is, there's a first-time deposit, then there's a second-time deposit, there's a third-time deposit, right? And if they're having a problem during that first-time deposit, we're essentially killing the lifetime value of that user. We've got people that have technical issues, real technical issues. And then we've got a ton of noise, right? It's just noise about our games being too tight, the slot machines being modified in order to make you lose, probably how you feel when you go to play in a casino, right? You're like, the casino's clearly doing something against me. We're not, but that's the perception and the feeling that a lot of people get. So we have all of these different people that are sitting in this area, right? And in reality, this is what it looks like. We've got a big box of noise. Then we've got, technical issues, which do tend to surface, and our customer support is very tightly linked with our QA, and they get to talk. And then we've got our first-time depositors, which is just a really small segment. Remember, our players are paying, and about 3% to 4% of our population are the depositors, right? And our whales are 0.05% of our population. And then we've got, our Proto Whales, the people that have the potential of becoming whales that are sitting over there. And because we're not able to actually look into all of this data or even read all of these tickets, our life looks like this, where half or 3/4 of what's really going on in the system never gets perceived by a human, right? And this is a problem that's only getting worse as we continue progressing through the growth of the company and the growth of the applications. When I showed you the forecasting of the tickets, that forecasting is based on us continuing to do exactly as well as we've done today, but opening up a whole host of different platforms. So we've got iOS that just recently launched, we have the iPad version, we have the Kindle, we have the Android, with all of these different platforms. And we're assuming that we're going to do just as well as we've done today with regards to our customer support, and yet we have this terrible mesh that's happening where we're really hiding, and probably things are going to get worse in the multi-platform environment. On top of it, some of the customer complaints that we get utilize different languages to express the same thing. These are all things related to payment, but every time a customer support agent opens up a ticket, they need to read and try to decipher what it is that that person's trying to really address, what is the fundamental issue, and then try to give them the best possible solution, right? So quite frankly, this is how my customer support reps feel, and rightly so. Every time when we have our town halls on Fridays, they're like, tickets, tickets, tickets. That's all they can talk about, right? But they're very, very effective in helping us find the underlying issues. But we're leaving money on the table, right? Just by virtue of not getting to those Proto Whales, by virtue of not being able to respond to those first-time depositors, by virtue of having all of these situations, which are key points in the engagement of the life of a user, we're leaving money on the table. And that's something that we wanted to address. And we started looking at it, right? And the first solution that everyone talks about is, well, let's bring in additional headcount. The problem is that the additional headcount, as we all know, has a cost associated to it. And you've got to be able to measure what the ROI is going to look like. And at a given point, you just can't answer all of those tickets independently of the fact that you're leaving money on the table. The next thing is, well, let's think about outsourcing. Now, outsourcing to a third party means that you're going to lose a lot of visibility into what's going on to your system. So our tool set is really bursting at the seams, right? It's linear in its capacity to scale, i.e. every additional headcount is going to get you an additional 10 tickets per hour that is going to be blah, 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 blah. It's highly dependent on the human factor, so you've got to make sure that you've got very rigid guidelines around how people label things, how people write things in order for that reporting to actually go back up to QA. And it requires repetitive analysis of the same issues over and over again. Whenever a customer support rep opens up that ticket, they look at it and it's a payment ticket, but they've got to read through the entire ticket in order to figure out that that's a payment ticket and what's the appropriate answer to do. And so we started looking at prediction, right? Having a computer algorithm start to study all the tickets that are coming in and start telling us what were the potential solutions for that particular ticket before a human had even intervened, right? So before a human even looked at the ticket, the computer is already analyzing through natural language processing, what is this issue potentially about? And not only that, it's taking the macros that our customer support agents are currently using and telling the agent, you probably want to use one of these three, right? So then the speed at which, the throughput at which our customer support agents can go is a lot higher. As the models are learning, what we're starting to do is we're starting to allow the computer to actually answer some of the tickets. If the computer thinks that to a very high degree it knows what the actual answer should be, it's allowed to send out the macro, right? So essentially what starts happening is that we're capable of surfacing issues on general macro trends. So if we're having a big technical issue, that hidden black box is no longer there. It's a general macro trend that starts to surface. We're starting to surface things on an individual basis, right? Being able to say, this ticket here is actually a first-time depositor ticket, and this one should be addressed before the next person who's actually moaning about the fact that they did not get luck on the machine or that something else happened. So those two things are really important. It's helping us with our labeling, making sure that we have a coherent set of labels that we're applying so that for reporting perspectives on the QA side, we're doing something that's consistently basic and consistently applied as a methodology. And of course, it's improving the speed of response because our QA people know exactly what's going on. Now, the last part that I wanted to talk about is what we started to see. We've started trying to predict Proto Whales. We're now capable of predicting Proto Whales within their first game session. So we can assign a very highly likelihood that a person's going to be a Proto Whale, right? Which means that now, within those tiers that I showed you before, we can start advancing people down the funnel within our customer support organizations, Concierge Club and VIP Club, before they've even shown that they're going to be within that area. And we're capable of identifying 1% of our new users, which will end up generating 40% of the revenue, right? So that's massive. And we can automatically classify the tickets on arrival, which means we can increase the ticket flow. As a final slide, this is just very, very basic and very fast. This is an ROC curve, which essentially is what is used to measure whether a prediction model is working properly. And what we're seeing here is any model is essentially going to tell you, I think this person is right, and it'll also tell you, I think this person is right when that person is not right, right? And so what we have here is just a line that says if you were to do this on average with a population of 100 people, 50% of the people, just pure random picking would be determined to be wrong. 50% of the people determined on the picking are dependent to be right, right? Now, the further that this curve goes up, the better your model is. So just as an example, and I know that was a very, very fast overview of this, when we looked at our proto whale analysis, we had 421 people that were potentially going to be proto whales. And we wanted to succeed. We had 841. We wanted to succeed at being able to pick at least 50% of them correctly. Just by random picking, our overall population that we had to address was 92,000 people. With a naive model, which was just a simple heuristic, the population we had to address was 46,000 people. With our predictive model, we only had to address 5,917 people in order to hit 50% of our proto whales. Essentially, the cost factor, which is the area that really is interesting for everyone, is a difference of 1 to 15 with regards to just pure picking, right? And this is where you can start seeing the power of these prediction models. That's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you.